Have your attention, please? Okay, so PropTech is the most invested sectors. I want all of you to give our 3 founders, startup entrepreneurs, a big round of applause. Building a successful startup is a very, very long journey. So I have a couple questions to do a very quick rundown since those 3 gentlemen did not get a chance to answer any questions you may have. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. We can just do like 10 minutes POA. And my first question is that, so last few years was a big booming in the real estate market. So my personal belief is that in the next few years, technology are even more important than the past. However, there's a concern about the purpose of the real estate market. We want to ask your questions that where do you believe your company's technology will be far more mature than today in the next few years to ready for the massive adoption? So Mike, it's working out? Wonderful.
So the question, like, you know, how is this impactful in the next 5 years? Yeah, absolutely. I actually think it's pretty good that there's, you know, potentially a bit of a downturn, honestly, because it puts pressure on all the ones that are building it. And I think there's a lot of people in the room that have technologies that they're working on that will like save money across the entire like value chain of a building. And I think that's going to become more important now that capital is drying up, because now you're looking at those cents and those dollars and figuring out, okay, where can I make a difference? And that's really where I came from, right? I have a tech background, and I was like, okay, this, you know, like we have to fix the operating model of construction. And then I looked at it and it's like, oh, there's no operating model in construction. There's a lot of them. So let's make this a product. So I think like making the planning and changing the kind of process how it flows from the perspective of BauHouse will help actually a lot of technologies to integrate better, because you're not selling to 3 stakeholders, the owner, the architect, and the contractor. You're selling to one entity that decides. And then secondly, like, we'll be able to shave off cost right off the bat, and hopefully with the help of all of you here and your innovations, like even more over time. So I think it's a good time to be in this space.
We're running a SaaS model, selling software to business entity, business owners. The first 2 years for my business, we spent all the time in developing products. Back to David's question. The market, there's always cycles, right? A few years goes up, a few years goes down. The timing for us is currently we're doing initial sales. We're looking for early adopters. The market is huge, market is big. And for big entities, they're not easy to change their business model or change their operation system. So, like for this year, our ideal customers are small, medium business. And in 5 years, we can scale up. Our solution, what I believe the solution is, can save the business money, can make their operation more effective. But we need getting more adopted. That's my idea.
Yes, I came from a very IT and high-tech background. I've been running IT companies in the past many years. So PropTech is actually something new to me. You know, I got into this a year ago, and this to me is very interesting because unlike to the field I've been very familiar with, this is a very low-tech field. You know, even I mentioned all these big companies, right, as our customers, but in reality, all the assets they're managing, all these shining, you know, buildings, all these shopping malls, all these office buildings, they managed by Excel. Okay? Believe it or not, this is the way how they manage all their assets. So I think, you know, David asked this question, you know, with this real estate market going up and down, and for us, regardless whether the market is going up or down, there's always all these many assets we need to be able to under control to manage in a very different way, and we need to be the digital transformation enabler to help them to get onto the technology, speed, high-speed train so that they can do a better job. So this is our vision, and this is how we approach this, and this is how we try to help our customers nowadays.
Okay, great. My next question. We do have lots of different people in the audience. Or consider yourself in the builder, developer, construction side, raise your hand. Okay, where considering an inventor, investor, angel side, raise your hand. What the rest? Okay, if you're already in the tech space but not in the PropTech yet, raise your hand. Okay, got it. So now you have a better understanding for our audience. So lots of people come here has an interest in the PropTech, but not yet in the PropTech yet. So what are your suggestions for those people to support particular builders and investors who are not in the PropTech yet? How can they support the PropTech innovation in general, not particularly investing in your company? Okay, start with you.
Yeah, I think it's it boils down a little bit to a mindset change, right? It's specifically if you invested in tech before, it scales beautifully, right? Like you have a bunch of people with a laptop and like an AWS server, and then shit just happens. It's beautiful. Now, this is a huge industry, but we've heard it. Like it's an industry that's like not super digitalized. It's a fractured industry in like the purest sense. It's service providers. The plumber does not care what the electrician does. Now, I think a lot of the past innovations or like the past investments in the space, and I'm working with someone from Zeitro, they got burned, right? Like you see something that looks like tech, like, oh, we're putting it all in the factory and it's super integrated. But then the reality is like, oh, there's dependencies here and here and here. It's complex. So I think, and you have to start with something that is very focused and that doesn't overinvest and accept that it won't scale like tech. But when it does scale, you might not make 30% margin, but your products are significantly more valuable than a subscription to an app. And I think getting that message out, I come from tech myself, I get that this looks scary, but I think kind of shifting the mindset there is going to be a key.
Interesting question. I worked at a investment company before. There's 100 people team, about 50 billion under management, but we only invest in 4 industries. So everyone is hyper-focused on one industry. My understanding for investment is if you're not familiar with real estate, don't invest. You're not going to see the value for those startups, and you're not going to help that much for those startups. That's my point.
Yeah, so from my point of view, from my product point of view, I think as long as you're a developer, landlord, operator, try to use all these, tools, online tools like SaaS applications, for example, the CRM for leasing, the asset management tool, so that you have a better idea how your asset can be better managed in a different way. You have an overview of all this information, data analytics, all this data being analyzed for you. And so this is a very different experience. And for your investors, right, I think since it's an under-invested area, probably should think of more about investing into this different startups. So that's my ask.
Okay, wonderful. Can you invite the FormX guys to stand up, and also the Deep, where's the Deep? Our gentleman Deep, present, can you stand up, okay. So the totally 5 startups presented today. So we, of course, go through different selection process. So I want you guys to pay a little bit attention to them, and interest to them, find a time to chat with them. Those people are definitely the innovators in the PropTech space. Let's give the 5 founders a big round of applause again. Thank you. Thank you.